So now we'll talk about the extrude tool, and this tool will be one of the most frequently used tools in Fusion 360. Now for extrude, I'm going to start with a sketch. So I'll go to create sketch and I'll select this plane, the XY plane in this case, and I'll make two simple sketches, a rectangle and a circle. For circle, I'm going to use the hotkey C and I'll make it here. All right, so we have two different geometries now. Let's click on stop sketch, and now using extrude we'll add thickness to these two objects. So I'll go to this extrude option, and since this tool is kind of frequently used, we have a shortcut key or the hotkey for extrude as well, and you can use E as the hotkey for extrude. Now for extruding any geometry, you need to select a sketch profile. In this case, I'll select this profile, and you'll have two options now, the twist angle and the height. So here I'm going to add the height or the distance, and now you can see that the height will change here. You can add the value here as well. The height or the distance can also be changed from this distance field on the extrude panel. The second option is the twist angle or the taper angle. You can change this taper angle just by moving this slider. So right now I'm moving it inside and the taper angle is negative, and if you move it outside, the taper angle is positive, and it's just tapering the entire cuboid shape towards outside. The taper angle can also be changed from this taper angle field on the extrude panel. So in this case, I'm going to change my taper angle back to 0. We don't want any kind of tapers here. Now once you're finished making this, simply click on OK, and here we have the extruded drawing. Now once you extrude your drawing, the sketch will simply disappear. So we no longer have that circle, but you can bring it back also. And to bring it back, go to sketches on the browser, expand it, select your sketch and click the light bulb icon, and the sketch will be back again in our drawing. Now I'll extrude the circle again. So I'll go to extrude, I'll select the circle, and we have the same set of options, and we can clearly extrude this. But in this case, we'll talk about the start profile options. So in the previous case, we selected this profile plane option, which was the default, but in this case we'll change it, and now we'll have a new field here called offset, and you can specify any offset value. Now specifying the offset value will ensure that your drawing will start not from the original sketch but rather from an offset distance. So in this case, let's type 10 as the offset distance. All right, and here it is. Now the sketch is here, but our extruded geometry is starting at a gap of 10 units from our original sketch, and that gap is the offset distance. So in some cases, if you want that, you can clearly add the offset distance. Now what if we want our drawing to start from, let's say, the top plane? Well, in that case, you can select the last option from object. And now you'll have an option of selecting the object. So select an object. I'm going to select this one, and look at this. Now whatever the height is, Fusion will determine it, and it will ensure that now your object will start from that height. We still have the profile here, the sketch is here, but the extruded geometry will start from here. Even in this case, if you want to provide an offset value, you can do that from here. So let's just type 5 in this case for the offset, and now the offset will be made from that plane, the plane which we have already specified. So the gap between this offset and this sketch is 5. So I'm going to change this offset value back to 0, and I'll click on OK, and here is our extruded geometry. Now when you keep on adding 3D solids using all of these 3D modeling tools, they'll be added on the timeline. So we have the first extrude here, the second extrude is here, and you can go back in timeline and modify it pretty easily. In this case, I'll just delete this second extrude. I'll select it, right click, and I'll select delete, and I'll make this extruded geometry again, but with different options. So I'm going to go to create, I'll select this circle, and now we have the direction option. Now so far we've used one side direction option, but we have other options like two sides and symmetric. Selecting one side will allow you to add a height only on one side of the sketch, but if you change it to two sides, you will be able to add height here as well as here. And not only that, you can add the taper angle here as well as here, and you can do this differently as well if you want. So using this, you can make very interesting shapes just with a single sketch, and you don't need to add 3 sketches or make many modifications to end up with this kind of drawing. You can also select the symmetric option, and the symmetric option will ensure that the drawing is extruded on both the sides equally and all the properties are also same. So the height as well as taper angle is same in this case for both the sides. In this case, the distance of 49.977 which you see here is the distance from this sketch to this point or this sketch to this point. So it's just half of this complete height. But if you want to specify the complete height, you can select this whole length option from the measurement, and now you can extrude it, and this is the complete distance now. It won't take that half value anymore. So let's click on OK once again, and this is our extruded drawing. Now I'll delete this one again, and once again I'll go to extrude tool, I'll select the circle, and I'll add a height. Now we have an option here called extend, and in extend distance is selected. So when you keep this option selected, distance, you'll have this option of distance, and you can obviously specify a distance, but you can change this as well. So in this case, I'm going to change it to this option, to object. And now the distance option will simply disappear because now you have to specify a reference object or a reference plane. So I'm going to select this plane, and the object will be extruded up to that plane. Now remember, this thing is different from the offset values or from object option which we have seen earlier, because in these situations the 3D extrude will actually start from that point, but in this case, in the extend option, it will end at our selected plane. So they're different. Now here, when you select this option, you'll end up with two options here, the chain face and extend face. We'll talk about this in a moment, but let's just see this option, offset. So here also you can add an offset. For example, I'll add an offset distance of 10, and now it will add an extra 10 unit length from the selected plane. So that's our offset. If you want to offset it downwards, all you need to do is just add a negative sign, and it will add the offset to the downward side from that selected plane. I'm going to click on OK, and now I'll open a completely new drawing. Now in this case, we have this drawing, which is just an extruded profile for this sketch, and we have this rectangle at a distance from this 3D solid. Now I'll go to extrude again, and for the profile, I'll select this one. And now if you select this arrow, you will be able to add a height or a distance, and look at this. As soon as it touches this geometry, the color will change and it will start making a cut shape here. So it will just remove the object as soon as it finds something else here in your drawing. So this is the default behavior of the extrude tool, but you can change this behavior pretty easily. So in the operation section, we have cut selected, and if you want Fusion to make a cut, well, keep this selected, but if you want to make a 3D solid, then change it to join. And now this will make a completely new solid and will join it with this one. If you want to make a completely separate body, then you can also select new body option, and now on the browser, inside this bodies folder, a new body will be added. You already have this body, but now selecting a new body will ensure that this is also added as a new body. So let's just click on OK, and I'm gonna go to bodies, expand it, and look at this. We have a new body, body 2. So this is the body 2 and the body 1. So let's just press Ctrl Z, and once again I'll go to extrude, I'll select the sketch, I'll add the height, and now I'll go to extend, and I'll select to object, and obviously you can specify any object. So I'm going to select this object, it will extend up to this point. So here in the chain faces option, when you select extend faces option, it will extend only up to this plane. But if you want this solid to take the shape of this plane, then you can select the second option. And now look at this, it will automatically take the shape of your plane and it will extend up to this random surface. So that's your chain faces option. You can select only the plane or chain faces to make this kind of 3D profile. Once you are done with this, you can click on OK. But before that, let's talk about the last option here, and that's all. Now when you select all, Fusion will automatically find out the complete thickness of the solid, and it will just extend it completely inside your 3D shape. Now moving inside this object, but you can change it to join as well, and now it will make solid up to this point, but that won't make any difference in this case. So I'm going to just change it to cut, and now it will make the complete cut from this solid like this. So I'm going to click on OK, and here it is. here is our 3D solid, and that's the extrude tool.